gentlemen, good evening. My name is Uday Bhaskar. On behalf of the India Habitat Center and the Society for Policy Studies, I have great pleasure in welcoming you to this evening's conversation. Some of you who've been here in the past, you may recall that we started this Changing Asia series earlier in the year, and we've had a series of lectures. And one of the suggestions made was that perhaps we could revisit some subjects that had received attention in the course of the last series, and one definitely was the nature of the Sino-Indian relationship. Now, there are many ways of triangulating the Sino-Indian relationship. The most important, or the one that comes to mind here in India, is October 1962, when we had the border war. Now, perhaps another way of looking at this, and it is literally this week as we speak, that in 1954 in April, on April 18th to be precise, we had the Bandung Conference. And next week on the 24th, we will have Indonesia.
Joint statement following Lee Keqiang's visit in May of 2013. But the most striking event was Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj's visit earlier this year, when she spoke of an Indian desire for a settlement, number one, and number two, that India was willing to look at out-of-the-box solutions. Now, this is all striking stuff. So therefore, we'll start the point. Shyam, can you lead us through the various stages of the border talks? How significant are some of these statements and events that are taking place?
Thank you very much, Manoj, and thank you, Uday, for organizing this conversation with Manoj. With respect to the border issue, I don't think we should get too excited about every little statement that emerges every now and then, either from the Chinese side or even perhaps from the Indian side. I think what is very clear is, if you look at it in a somewhat broader perspective, after 1962, the first time that an authoritative statement was made on a possible solution to the border issue was by Xiaoping in 1982, when he put forward what became known as the Pact. And if you look at the statement that he made, there was an interview to the Vikrant journal, and there was also his meeting with Mr. G. Parthasarathy. And in both these, what he said was that if we look at the border, on the eastern side you have rich resources. It is from the point of view of India, it is a much more valuable part of the border. In the west, your own Prime Minister said that not a blade of grass grows in this region. So we should settle it on this basis of a package. I mean, the impression was that therefore you settle it on the basis of the existing status quo. In subsequent conversations, I was in Beijing from 83 to 86, and in the subsequent conversations that both the Ambassador Venkateshwaran and I had with senior Chinese officials, it was quite clear that the way we understood the package proposal was precisely that we settled on the basis of the status quo. That is, you legitimize the existing line of actual control. Now, this continued up to, say, 84, 85. 83, we had a number of...
The 2005, 2005 political parameters and agreed guideline agreement, which again, the Article 4 and Article 7, they speak of settled populations, that the border settlement will take into account the settled population, and number two, the agreement will take into account the strategic interests of the two sides. To me, that appears like a framework for a settlement, which again would be on an as-is basis.
But I mean, from 1980 onwards, as I said, we have been talking about a possible solution to the boundary issue. It is not true that the boundary issue was set aside by the Indian side and let the rest of the relations move ahead. In fact, from 1980 onwards, as I said, we were regularly talking about the boundary issue between the Vice Minister on the Chinese side and the Secretary on the Indian side. The two sticking points were precisely the ones which one you mentioned, that is the central population, which later became the code word for Taiwan.
Oh.
And the second was taking into account prominent geographical features, which to us was the reference to the watershed as being a basis for the demarcation of the boundary. These two were considered in 2005 virtually at the last moment. And this was, in a sense, a quid pro quo for our accepting the declaration on the cooperative and strategic partnership between China and India. But they considered also in the talks which were held between Wan Jiabao and the Prime Minister Dr. Manoj Singh. This is the time when the Chinese side put forward the view that today China-India relations are not only bilateral, but they have a strategic dimension. They have a global dimension. So what happens between India and China is something which is important not only for the relations between the two countries, but will